So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Raap, who is an author, trainer, motivational speaker, and coach with 25 years of experience working in media, travel, banking, and marketing. Since 1996, Dee has helped clients in topics related to communication, service, leadership, and self-care. She's passionate about service to customers, community, and country, and has trained in the AmeriCorps Vista program since 1998. She's the author of 4 books on healing and service, has served as a board member for 7 nonprofits, and is a member of the National Speakers Association. So without further ado, Dee Raap, take it away.
Hey, thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me be part of your amazing conference and your amazing program. Since you're all in the education world, I need to start off with a question. Do you agree with this statement that life really is this amazing journey? So tell me this, do you ever have days that you wish weren't quite so amazing? And have you had at least one of those days in the last 6 months or 6 weeks or even 6 days? Yeah, life is this amazing journey. And just think about one day in your journey where you work and all the things that you do during that day at your job in the after-school care program. Think about all the verbs of the things that you would be doing to serve, to help, to guide, to inspire. You have very busy days, right? Now, when you go home from that kind of a day, whatever time of the day that is, when you go home, do you get to have somebody else take care of you at night? Do you get to have somebody else feed you and make sure everything's ready for your wonderful night of rest? And then you get to sleep like, 7, 8, even 9 hours, maybe catch up night. And the next day you come back and you're all ready to go again. Is that your real world? Or do you work hard all day and then you go home and you have real life at home at night too? Yeah, you guys are amazing for what you do. And I can only say thank you for the huge difference that you make for school children, because that's so critical. But I think I know this about you. I think I know that you give and give and give there, and that at home you probably have family and maybe even a pet or two that you do things for and you take care of. And then I'll bet that if you have that weekend to kind of recharge, if somebody called you and needed something, you would do something for somebody. You're that kind of people. You give and you give. So what I want to talk with you about today is how we manage in all of those challenges to find ways to take care of ourselves, because life is always going to be filled with challenges. That's what makes it so amazing. And this is a real picture from, I used to live in Wyoming, in kind of in the mountain west of America. And I got to go to Cheyenne Frontier Days and see and smell these real bulls. And sometimes I think the challenges we have in life are a lot like that. Don't do a scratch and sniff test here. It might not be very nice, but we have so many challenges in everyday life. One of my challenges is I had this sweet tooth, and man, you give me chocolate, I'm going to eat it. And then I will probably eat some more. Weather can be a challenge, and can affect my mood. I live in South Dakota where we don't have hurricanes, but we have a lot of snow, and we all have to own multiple shovels and deal with that. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about, being from Alaska. There were so many challenges related to COVID in our schools. We wouldn't even have time to go into all of those today, but that was a real challenge for so many people in schools. And sometimes when you have challenges all week long, or even just say by Tuesday, you can feel like this. I grew up on a farm, and real roosters could sometimes look like this, right? And then when you have those kinds of a week, those kinds of days, that can make you have this kind of a wish for people who made your life complicated. I could actually sell this toilet paper. What I wish I could do would be to give this toilet paper to the pandemic and say, I just wish you this, because the pandemic was just so hard. So one of the challenges in life really shouldn't be pink flamingos, but they can be pink flamingos if you grew up like I did. I don't know if anybody here grew up on a farm, but I grew up on a farm in South Dakota. It was a cattle farm. My dad had a herd of Hereford cattle, And that part of South Dakota where I come from is like, there's lots of wildlife. It's home to ducks and geese and pheasants and deer, and it's beautiful rolling hills and lots of lakes, not the dry prairie like a lot of South Dakota can be. Well, in the 1960s, my parents built a new house, and in front of that house, my mother had a flock of these, not just one or two, but a whole flock of plastic pink flamingos, and they embarrassed me a lot. And when I was embarrassed by my mom, I remember thinking that she was just goofy. And I knew that every time a car drove down the road and they saw these pink birds on this farm, that they knew that we were goofy. And I tried really hard as a kid to hide goofy. And then I surely thought that because my mom was like that, I would never, ever be a mom myself. Well, the day came, and of course I became a mom, and I have 2 daughters. And when they were little, it was really important for us to do things like, take them to church. And so one Sunday morning in July in South Dakota, hot day, we're getting ready to take our daughters to church. And I remember looking at my girls thinking I had them dressed well and everything was looking so good. And I had that thought that I had done it. I had become a really good mom because my goal was to become a better mom than my goofy mom, right? So I put a lot of effort into becoming this perfect mom. And I looked at my daughters and they looked so good. And I was just all over myself with, yes, I've done it. I'm better than my mom. I've got this figured out. And we went to church, and my younger one was only 3 years old. So she would stand on the pew so she could see. And she was standing on the pew when only the minister was talking. And she grabbed her dress by the hem and she lifted it up around her neck. And she very defiantly proclaimed, "I don't got no panties on." And she didn't. And I was embarrassed to tears in church over my daughter. Well, the reason I told you that story is that that is real life. If we have kids or we have pets, we have real life. So everything you do at work, you do so much. But then you go home and you've got real life. So this is self-care for all of it. This is self-care that should hopefully help us manage everything that we deal with. And when we look back at life and we see some of the lessons, that day with my daughter, I learned a very important self-care lesson. I learned that I needed more rest. I learned that I had to kind of learn to be more present and not be thinking about all the other things like, oh, I'm a great mom, or just be where you're at is a big self-care strategy we'll talk about in a little bit here. So this is self-care for real life. And I love this quote by Maya Angelou, who said, "When we know better, we can do better." That is self-care in a nutshell. You take whatever you're doing now that you're doing right and you do more of it, but you keep learning and you keep doing. It's like a toolkit. We will look at your toolkit today and try to add to it, because when you know better, you can do better and you'll have better self-care. Since you make such an amazing difference with the school kids that you work with and your peer group, I decided that I would wave a magic wand and let you go anywhere you could go for self-care. You get to take a trip anywhere in the world. Where would you go? Are you a winter person, so you would love to go and play in the snow someplace? Would you like to go to a beach? And you can chat on this, please. I would love to hear from you where you like to go. So please chat. Where is your place? You could go anywhere. Maybe next fall you want to go to see some beautiful fall scenery someplace. Or maybe your idea of a great getaway is just having time in your own home with, like, this is a picture of me and my grandson years ago. Maybe you just want to be in your backyard. Maybe all you want is to have a good book to read and the time to read it from the start to ending. What is it for you? What would be self-care for you if you could go anywhere or do anything? What's on your list? We have any chat on this yet from anybody?
Oh yeah, we have a whole bunch coming in the chat right now.
Cool.
We have
Cool.
Japan, Hawaii. Hawaii's been here a few times. New Zealand, beach with my family. Yes
Nice.
to no cell phones. California coastline. around the world cruise, and more
Ooh,
Hawaii. We had a lot of Hawaii in here. That's a popular one.
nice, nice.
And Scotland, fishing on a
Ooh,
lake in the south.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good, good. So you've got that place in mind that you would go to if you could go to, and that's a good dream to have. The only problem with that is that, yeah, like I get to take a vacation like once a year, maybe sometimes twice, depends upon how you define vacation. But usually once a year, my husband and I get away, and we get to go someplace, right? But that's like once or twice a year. This has got to be every day. It's got to be stuff that you can do that breaks the stress of all those great things that you do in your jobs every day. It's got to be the things that breaks the stress of dealing with your families and other things that just get to be too much sometimes. So we're going to look and find things that are very real for today and every day. Okay. So what is it? What is self-care? And here you're welcome to chat again, please. If you said, well, this is self-care is blank. Fill in that blank. What is it in your world? Just take an everyday examples. What would you say self-care is?
We've got self-care is reading a book,
Yes.
healthy boundaries, relaxing and reading, mindful peace, being outdoors, quiet space where I can be creative. Someone said time is important, quiet time, walking my dog, cooking, exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, good, good. Those are all very real things that we can do. And when we think of them as being self-care, then we can kind of be perhaps hopefully more intentional about them. I don't have a Webster's dictionary definition for you, but this is my definition. Self-care, I think, is doing the things that matter for you, to take care of you in your real life. Your real life might not be like mine. It might not be like Lily's. It might not be like anybody else's. This is really coming into your space and your real world so that it can last. This can be something that you can sustain when it's fit for you. Okay. I know what self-care isn't, though. I know that self-care is not being selfish. Have you ever been accused of being selfish? Self-care is not selfish. And it is not self-centeredness. It is being self-centered. It's being grounded. It's not self-absorption. It's not just focusing only on yourself, because you couldn't even do that. You are giving, kind, loving people who do so much for everybody else. It's what you do. So you can't just be absorbed in yourself. That won't happen. And nor is this self-indulgence. It's not that. It's not that at all. And so if you've ever had anybody accuse you of any of that, you have to kind of let that go and say, this is taking care of me. So if you've got the handout, this is a place where the handout starts. If not, you can surely just share this in chat too. I would love to know, when you think about what are some of your most effective self-care habits, what would be some of yours? What would be some of your best tips that you would offer this group already? And we'll just kind of keep gathering these up, and hopefully we can save the chat, and you guys can have access to that somehow. But what would be some of the things that you do now that you think are, yeah, that's good stuff, and I just want to keep doing that?
Someone said pedicures.
Ooh,
Outdoor walks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please. Oh, please.
Do at least one simple thing for yourself a day. Getting outside, walking, skincare routine, take time with family. Don't take work home. That's hard, and that's one's especially hard right now with the pandemic.
Yes. Yeah.
Take a hot sauna.
Oh, I like this list a lot. Yeah. So we're going to get into actions in just a little bit, but I want you to keep in mind some of those things that you hear from other people, because if you have the same reaction that I do, like, oh, a pedicure, then maybe and maybe you can't afford to go out and get a really expensive one, but you can maybe give yourself one too, fairly easily. Just soak in some good Epsom salts. There's so many things we can do that cost next to nothing that still give us really good self-care. Why focus on this? Oh, I've got these 4 really good reasons for you. The first one is that I think self-care is how we break up the impact of stress in our lives. We're going to have stress. It's going to be too many kids. It's going to be too much to do. It's going to be too little time. It's going to be hard. And that just causes stress. Aside from COVID, think of all the other things that cause you stress. And if we don't counter that stress, it builds up and it's hard on us. So this is about building our resilience to that, okay? And then another reason to look at this is the balance that we get. I mean, I can be in balance and I can be out of balance. I can tell you life is a lot better when I'm in balance. So self-care can really give you that because it helps you create some of those boundaries that we all need. Healthier. Oh my goodness, yes. Health is a major reason for paying attention to this. And one of the action steps we're going to talk about is eating and exercising for your health. But overall, I think of all the years I've been doing this, and I didn't share this earlier, but the reason I really created this program years ago was I've done a lot of work in customer service and leadership training in my career. And I've seen people get really tired doing good work that made a huge difference. And I decided I had to come up with a program that could help them be able to keep going. And so to be able to keep going with resilience and balance and better health and being happier at what you do, self-care can give you all that. So of those benefits, which one do you care about the most? You can chat that and you can write that in your handout for yourself, but which one of these 4? They're all important. And maybe there's another one. Maybe you have another benefit for it. What would be one of those that you would be willing to share in chat that means the most to you? Yeah, Lily?
It just, right now, it looks like balance is coming up a lot. That's the most popular. Like 6 people. Resilience there, more balance. Balance is definitely overall very popular. Cool. Happier is in there too. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for chatting. I appreciate that so much. So balance, and health, a lot of that comes down to healthy things that we can do. And stress really makes it hard on our hearts. And heart disease is still the #1 killer in America. So much of what we can do is about breaking up that stress that impacts our health and our heart. So that's one of the major reasons for doing this. But we all have challenges in real life. We have challenges. I shared some with you with a sense of humor earlier, but what are your real challenges? Again, you can share this in the chat if you'd like to. What most gets in your way? What most prevents you from saying, I'm going to do that for myself today? In the real world, what makes it difficult? You have any chats yet?
We're getting some coming in. Time management is one that's coming up. Time and guilt.
Guilt. Guilt. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Distractions. Worrying about others' happiness. Figuring out what is something that I enjoy, and guilt again. Yeah.
Okay.
Time.
Okay. Usually time is the #1 answer because it takes some time. And so the actions that we're going to talk about in a little bit, some take minutes, some just take seconds. It's just about trying to break up that stress throughout the day. Guilt is a hard one though, because if you feel guilty, then it's going to be like, gosh, how do I justify this? And we'll talk about that more at the very end. And I can be the distraction queen of the prairie, I think. I mean, I have so many distractions. We all do, right? And so it's a matter of kind of trying to put those aside and say, I need some me time. I need some real me time. So thank you again for sharing that. Now I have one more for you, and this is on your handout. And this one you don't have to share, but I really want you to spend maybe at least a few seconds thinking about what is your self-care goal. And while I'm talking about this one or giving you time to think about this, I'm going to tell you what my goal became. About 3 years after my daughter wasn't wearing panties in church, I had the biggest self-care lesson of my life, which created the biggest goal of my life. And the lesson came a hard way, a very, very hard way. Just before Christmas, my mother died suddenly of a heart attack. No warning, no clue, and just no mom. The mom who'd made Christmas special my whole life is gone. And that was really, really very hard. But what got to be even harder was that at my mother's funeral, I learned that not only had my mother died of a heart attack at age 62, so had her mother. So I had my mom and her mom both dying of heart disease at age 62. And that made me instantly high risk for heart issues, instantly. So I had one very simple goal to start out, and that was to live to be 62. I wanted to see my daughters grow up. I wanted to see them have kids someday. I wanted to travel some more. I wanted to have more life. And so I decided I had to do things to help me reach that goal. And that's what we all have to do. Whatever your goal is for self-care, then it becomes up to you to make that happen. Okay? So I hope you have a real goal, and whatever that is, that's for you, and we'll see if we can help you make that happen. How we're going to do that today, and after this, if you want, I have a free 15-week program for you to sign up for at the end. So I'm not just talking here today. I want this to become a really good habit for you. I think of life as that amazing journey, and so is self-care, because we do learn a lot from what we've gone through. We keep learning, we keep growing. And I think every good journey in life needs a map. And so this map I have for you for self-care is a very simple acronym of mindset, action, and people. And it's designed to just help you achieve that self-care practice for your real life. Okay, so let's start with mindset. I'm a water person, and I love water. I love being by water. When I'm by water, I'm usually a pretty happy person. It just does that to me, right? This picture for me symbolizes how we see life, and mindset to me is how we see life. And when we see life with a positive view, life is a lot easier, right? Would you agree? Well, how do we get here? How do we get that view? Well, we're all raised with people, parents, grandparents, coaches, people who were our role models, who had some say in how we turned out. They cared how we turned out, so they taught us some things that mattered, right? And sometimes those role models were just a little bit creative, like this one. I'm not promoting smoking, but I think about the characters that we have in our real life. And I think we've all had characters who were our role models in real life. My dad was a World War II veteran, and my dad loved to be out in the cattle pasture. And I loved to be outside with him. So I would go with him out in the pasture checking on cattle. And without stopping the pickup that was going about 15 miles an hour, so slowly over the pasture, imagine the cattle on the prairie, okay? My dad could roll, light, and smoke a cigarette without stopping the pickup, okay? Now, so that's one of my role models. It was crazy, okay? Now, my dad's sister was the opposite kind of role model. She was the one, she got volume 1, issue 1, and then the next 50 years of something called Prevention Magazine. And Prevention Magazine had all these tips and things that you could do to take care of yourself. It was a great magazine. I think it still is around. Well, so when I would go to visit my aunt, I had to do things that she had learned how to do because she's one of my role models, right? So I have actually eaten raisins that were soaked in rum because that was supposed to be good for inflammation. And one day I was at her place and she had put balsamic vinegar in fruit salsa because that was better for you than just regular salsa. So it was simple things, some crazy things, but she believed that these things were good. So I did them. So we have these role models that taught us a lot about self-care, right? So my question for you is, who's one of your role models that helped you create your mindset about self-care? Who taught you some of the things that you know? Was it your mom or your dad? Was it a teacher, a grandparent? And this is on the handout page, so you can write that down for yourself if you like, or if you want to share it. And then maybe you had one that was a bit more creative, like my dad, and you maybe didn't want to always do the things that you learned from them because you kind of got lessons that maybe weren't the best either. So who is your role model? What did you learn from them? And if you want to chat that, that's great, but they don't have to. But if you want to share who your role model is in this, that would be cool.
We are, Summer says her mom, Jennifer, her kid, and the ocean. Marissa says her mother, my partner, my mom, Lady Gaga.
Yeah, good. Good.
Stepmom and high school science teacher.
Yeah. So that's part of learning or thinking about what have you learned that you maybe need to keep doing, and what did you learn that you need to kind of undo. I think it's kind of like this. We have, I think God gave us two shoulders, because I think on one side kind of can be the little angel who, the good role model who encourage us to do things like walk after dinner. And then you have the other side that says, oh, go ahead. You'd like that second piece of cake. And oh man, and how about the third for me? I mean, I'll do that. So it's kind of like, which one do you listen to the most? Okay. And that's the mindset that we have to have, that you make your choices. This is your mindset. This is how you view it. And nobody gets to choose it for you, because this really is yours. And I have another way of sharing that with you. My daughter, the one in church that day, married on Memorial Weekend of, I believe it was 2008. I know details. I don't always remember the dates that my kids got married, but I think it was 2008. So that was Memorial Weekend. And she married a soldier. And that October, he was deployed for 15 months to Iraq. So new bride, deployment, 15 months to a place called the Triangle of Death in south of Baghdad. So that was a hard deal. And I saw her part of her self-care was protecting her from all this hurt. And so a little bit of pulling back, a little bit trying to keep herself safe. And that was hard. It was hard being the mom and watching that as well, right? So near the end of the deployment, I was with her and I asked her how she did this. How did you manage this? Because it was tough. I mean, new bride, gone 15 months. And she said her husband had said a couple things to her when he left him. One of the things he said to her was he needed her to mind your business, is what he said to her. You need to mind your business. Well, when I was a kid on that farm and I had some of those interesting relatives, I would ask my mom and my dad about them, and they'd say, well, mind your own business. So I thought, is that what he's saying? No, he didn't say mind your own business. He said, mind your business. So I kind of grappled with that for a while. And the next summer, I was going through National Geographic for my grandson. And I saw this picture. It's a picture of America's first penny, coined in 1787. And on the bottom of it is our first motto. And it says, mind your business. And I think about, that's really what self-care is. It's a personal responsibility that we have for ourselves, with this tremendous opportunity to build resilience, to build balance, to make us healthier and happier. But it's like it's part of our job, but it doesn't have to be hard. And so that's what I'm going to show you in the actions. But the mindset says, this is mine. And it says, you are worth it. You make such a difference for everybody else with all that you do. All I'm saying is, please put yourself on that same list and now make a difference for you. Every day, be intentional about self-care for you, okay? So how do you do that? It's action. It's like, you know, the grabbing the rope thing at the rodeo that I went to in Wyoming. And I just love that sense because I think it is what we can do. And I know that there's other things we can do. Like, I have to share this one with you. Sometimes I think we have other choices, and I'm not criticizing our choices. I'm just saying that there's lots of things that we can do. And I think it kind of comes down to this. Think in terms of more and less. Do more of what works well and do less of what doesn't. After my mom died, and I realized that I was 34 years old and I wanted to live past 62, or at least to 62, I realized I had to change some things. First, I had to change what I was eating. My mother and her mother were both great cooks. They could make the sweetest dough. Their apple strudels were delightful. They could cook anything. It was delicious. It was always delicious. But it was also made with a lot of lard and a lot of bacon grease, and it was probably not good for my mom's arteries, nor for my grandmother's. So I had to modify recipes to make them healthier for me. Plus, I had to add a lot more fruits and veggies to my diet. So I did more of that and less of the bacon grease and lard. I decided that I had to walk my heart every day because that would be a way of trying to keep my heart stronger. So I had to walk my heart every day and do less of the things that just overwhelmed me, like not ever saying no to anything. I had to learn to say yes to myself. So actions are really a lot about more and less. It's not rocket science, or I couldn't do it. I'm sorry, I'm not that smart. But I can do more of what's good for me, and I can try to do less. Although I gotta be honest, I have a hard time ever eating only 3 potato chips. I like more than 3. I like that second piece of cake. So, but then I try to do more walking, or, you know, it's that balance. Again, it's balance. Balance doesn't have to mean a piece of chocolate cake in each hand, though, okay? It can mean one here and then a walk here. So, and the other thing I want to make sure that you know is that this is for you, and you might want to tell somebody else how to take care of themselves. Somebody I know who's been in AA for 40 years gave me this prayer one time. And to me, it's so wonderful. It's the self-care serenity prayer. It goes like this: God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. And that's parentheses, other people. We might want to, but we can't. We only have power over ourselves. But that's it. You have the mindset is you have this responsibility and opportunity, and you can do this. So, and then God grant me the courage to change the things I can. And that's me. I can only change me. And then believe me, there's lots of times when I want the wisdom to remember the difference between them and me. Okay. So it comes down to, you have to do this for yourself because you're worth it. So on the back side of your handout, I have the sheet that looks like this. Well, you probably can't see that, but if you don't have the handout, I decided that in case you didn't have the handout, I pulled it right into the PowerPoint, okay? So we can go through these and you can take notes, and then I will ask you for some comments on these and some chats. This is my action plan. Again, you're not going to open up a book on self-care and read this. This is the list I have pulled together after all these years of training people and coaching people, and for my own life, what has worked. So maybe not everything on this list is going to work for you, but there's 6 strategies here, 6 big actions. And under each one, I'm going to go through like 3 tips. And then you can say under each one of these, which one of these would work for you or what else might work for you. So we'll share that in the chat, but it's designed to be very real. So this is not going to be a lot of theory, but These 6 are, I think, pretty important. And the first one is mind your business, okay? And again, I chose the flamingos because after I realized that I didn't have to be smarter than my mother, I realized that I had learned a lot from her. And those flamingos kind of became the symbol of that for me. So I have the flamingos in this series. So minding your business, you know, we've all heard the oxygen mask. And I'm in Oregon right now. And when I flew here 2 nights ago, I looked at the airplane and I thought I hadn't flown very much during COVID, right? Because that just kind of put an end to a lot of our careers for a while. And I looked around and I listened to the oxygen mask again, kind of anew for a change. And I thought, so many of us have such a hard time, and you've said it here today already, that you have a hard time saying me first. A lot of that's going to be because of the guilt. Oh my gosh, if I say me first, I'm being selfish. You're not, you are being responsible. If you don't take care of yourself first, you're going to run on empty. And I don't know about you, but when I run on empty, it's not a real good thing for my family, nor my friends, nor anybody else. I can get just grumpy and miserable. So to take care of yourself first it's not an act of selfishness. It's really an act of becoming the best you can be. So I think what we have to do is think responsibility and opportunity. Remember how many people you serve every day, and your opportunity is to take care of yourself so you can sustain that good work and sustain your own good health. One of the hardest things I think for a lot of people is clarifying boundaries. If you struggle with this one, just put yes in the chat and say, yes, yep, me too. I struggle with boundaries because so many of us do. And I think, Lilia, is anybody saying yes to this one?
Got about 20 people saying yes to this.
Yeah.
More coming.
Yeah. It's so hard. I think, and sometimes I struggle with the word boundaries, but lots of times I do use the word limits. Like, what are my limits? And just like when my daughter made it all the way to church and standing in the pew without any panties on, imagine how tired I was. I had just started my job, a new job, and I was still a young mom, and so overwhelmed and tired, you know. And so sometimes we just need to say, help me. I need a nap, or help me, I need to take a break, or I can't do all of this. I think it's really important that we teach others how to set boundaries as well, and what are their limits. What's everybody's responsibilities with this? I think you can absolutely do this with respect and kindness, though. I don't think you have to become tired and exhausted to set a boundary. You could say, here's what I can do. I'm at my daughter's house in Corvallis, Oregon. And on the refrigerator is the list of who does what every night with cleaning up the kitchen. That's like their order for the house. And guess whose name is not on it? Mine. I'm still the guest. So I'm watching this as they've defined this. So they've clarified who's doing what. Sometimes it can be that simple, and sometimes I know it's hard. I've also learned to say, not now, not yet. I would love to, but I can't right now. Maybe I can help you later. I can't do it right now. I wish I could, but I can't right now. Because it doesn't have to be brash to say, here's what I can do and here's what I can't do. Okay? I hope that helps you a little bit with that one. You've got to be able to take care of yourself in order to practice self-care. Okay? So the next one is to be present and to be here right now. When I cook dinner at night in my kitchen in South Dakota, I watch old episodes of a TV comedy that was popular when I was in college called MASH. And maybe you've seen it, but it's one of those timeless comedies, and I laugh. And one night Colonel Potter was talking to Klinger. If you remember, Klinger was the one who was always dressing in ways to get out of the army, and it never quite worked, but he was always kind of audacious about it. And one night, Colonel Potter turns to him and he says, "Soldier, if you ain't here, you ain't anywhere." And I went, "Oh, that's being present, being where you're at." And this is like, we have so many distractions. So when you get distracted, even during this presentation today, then just come back. When you leave the space that you're in and you realize that, don't get mad at yourself. Just say, okay, I left, now I'm just going to come back. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be here, because here is really the only space that you can be in. What helps you do that is sometimes disconnecting from tech whenever you can, because people are on like all the time. It's a lot. And along with that, then like a 1 minute meditation, or even a 1 breath meditation. Everybody right now, just take 1 big deep breath. Just breathe in and then breathe out. I remember my mother saying, "Oh, just take a deep breath." And I said, "No, I don't want to." Well, now I get it. That breathing is critical to being here. And you can do a 1 minute meditation of just breathing in and out for 1 minute. I did this with a group of nurses for National Nursing Week 2 years ago. And they had and this is maybe 3 years ago, but it was before COVID, when they really got crazy busy. They had a hard time finding time for anything. I said, okay, so you just have to go into the bathroom. You look in that mirror for just a minute and just breathe. Just breathe. Find the time when you can turn off your brain, because we're not meant to be on all the time. Okay. So does this one work for you at all? Can you disconnect from tech when you go home at night, or how do you do this? How do you find a quiet time? When is your best quiet time? Let's ask it that way. When's your best quiet time? If you're like me, sometimes you have a meditation and you fall asleep because you're just that tired. How do you do this?
We got some people saying, Misty says in the car, Audra before bed, in the shower, anytime I go to the bathroom, shower, in bed, while in bed before sleeping. Yeah, there's a few more coming in. A lot of people say in the shower is a time.
Yeah, the shower is a great time because of that constant noise, like that water noise can be very soothing to us. And you can just like be there and just soak it up. Just soak it up, literally in the shower. The next one is really an important one. Let go and let it be. Have you ever known somebody in your family who kept a grudge for a long time? That same aunt of mine who taught me so much good stuff about self-care, I saw her keep a grudge for 52 years, and she was a wonderful person. She was a happy person, but there was somebody in her life she could never forgive. And I thought, I don't want to be like that. So for me, letting go and letting it be is about accepting what you cannot change. And we cannot change another person. I couldn't make my aunt forgive that person. All I could say was, I didn't want to be like that. So I had to learn how to forgive myself and forgive others. And that can be hard. That can be hard, especially if you've been hurt. But if that's been something that has ever worked for you, would you just say yes in the chat, that yes to forgiving self and others? Because it's really important that you do, especially forgive yourself, because we've all got things that we've done. We've all got things that we wish we hadn't done. And when we pile that up and never let that go, it piles up. And this is about not creating big, nasty piles, but letting that stuff go, letting it go. So if you've ever been able to practice self-forgiveness, just say yes in the chat. It's critical. Anybody saying yes, Lily?
Oh yeah, tons of people. They're saying, I've got like 30 people. Yes, it's very freeing. Good not to carry anything that does not belong to you, including emotions and mindsets.
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
and it's so hard, and I don't know how many people in the program today are parents, but if you become a mom or a dad, or if you're an aunt or an uncle, or you just have little people in your life, there's so many times when you just think, oh, I could have done better. I could have done a better job of teaching them, or I could have been a better role model. And, no, everybody does the best they can at that moment. When I look back, do I wish I had done things differently? Sure. But, I did the best I could then. And so with that, again, you just take that really deep breath and you go, let it go and let it be. Okay. The next one, I really love this one. I think, let's say it this way, I gave birth to an artist and she gave birth to an artist and they did not get it from me. I don't have that, but I can write, so I do some creativity that way. I actually painted this flamingo, but the creativity that is inside everybody, I think, is a wonderful antidote to the stress that makes life so challenging. So I say, renew with that spirit, rejuvenate yourself. Now, this can be painting, drawing, music, dancing. It can be anything. It can be so many things. How many of you love to dance like no one's watching you? Anybody? Put that in the chat if you love to dance, and you don't care. Maybe nobody's watching you. You just don't care. Just you love to dance. Because one day I was in my kitchen dancing, and I love to dance, and I don't dance well either, but I love to dance. So I was dancing to some early Bruno Mars music, right? And my daughter was there, and out of my mouth came, I love Bruno Mars. I love his music. I looked at my daughter and I said, does that make me a cougar? And she laughed and she said, oh no, Mom, just keep dancing. Just keep dancing. Well, dancing and music are such amazing things that we can do in life that just break the stress right now. If you just have a song in your head right now, you can break up the stress in your head, in your heart. Another thing you can do, and this is one of my all-time personal favorites, is soak up nature's awe. Looking out my granddaughter's bedroom window where I'm at right now in Oregon, this morning a herd of 5 deer just meandered by and ate and nudged each other. And it was magical for me. And I went out yesterday and I picked a whole bunch of beautiful leaves and I brought them back to show my daughter. Soaking up nature, I think, and I've only been to a small part of Alaska, so I can't even imagine how beautiful it is there or wherever you live, but I think it is beautiful everywhere if we look for it. So soaking that up and taking that in is, and that doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything. So I really recommend you do that. And then learning to do something creative. Maybe there's something that you've always wanted to learn to do. And this is what I'd love to have you put in the chat. Is there something that you want to learn how to do? Maybe you want to learn how to knit or paint or cook or make the best low-fat chocolate cake in the world or something. Or maybe you want to learn how to write a book, or you want to learn how to water ski, or whatever it is that would just renew you. What do you want to learn? Are they sharing anything, Lily?
Oh yeah, we're getting a ton of stuff. Play guitar, ceramics, quilting, play piano, how to surf, how to organize. Yeah, surf is awesome. New languages, knitting, fly a plane. There's so many. They're coming in fast.
Yeah.
I'm not getting all of them. Yeah. Ukulele.
If you could, maybe that could become one of your self-care goals, that you want to learn something that would be that thing that would renew and refresh and restore you, because it's just something different and just for you. I was really surprised the day I learned that during World War II, Winston Churchill took time to paint. And I keep thinking about in the bunker, the bombing's about to start or the started, and someone says, where's Winston? Where's Churchill? Oh, he's off painting someplace. Of course, I'm exaggerating, but the reason he painted was for his creativity, for his problem-solving process. So pay attention to your creative spirit and do something that's just really good for you, okay? Make that part of your goal. My fifth one is to eat and exercise, not for a size, but for your health. Okay. My son-in-law's dad discovered yoga in his 70s, and I was in my early 50s then. So I thought, well, okay, if he can do it, I can do it. I wish I would have discovered it in my 20s. Yoga is amazing. And I only do gentle yoga. I know there's many different kinds of yoga, but it's all about the stretching. And it's about staying stretched out, because it's something you could do wherever you're at. You could, okay, right now, just do this with your shoulders for a while. Just stretch them up, move them up. I've had 3 shoulder surgeries in the last 2 years, and this is one of my ongoing physical therapy things, stretching to release the stress in that neck. And then for me, and maybe for you, is walking your heart. Just walk and get some exercise, do whatever you want to do, but do something. A woman who was the former lieutenant governor of South Dakota, I traveled with her one time, and she, in her 70s, when she was watching TV, she would lift 1 pound weights. And I'm going, hey, if that's good enough for her, it's good enough for me. I was in my 30s then, you know. Do what you can for exercise, whatever it is. And just think in terms of your health versus a certain weight or a certain size. I know people who are larger and are healthy. It's not about that. Do what it is to be healthy for you. So in the chat, would you put down what's something that you do to eat or exercise for health? Maybe in exercise, what's something that you do now that you just can count on? You could do it maybe not every day, but say maybe 3 or 4 times a week. You could do this thing that's good for you in terms of exercise.
So we got swimming and coaching swimming, juggling. That's a cool one.
Juggling?
Yeah.
That's a first in all these years. Wow, that's great.
Take vitamin D. That's important up here. Go for walks. Get in extra steps. Lifting children. That's a good one. CrossFit. Skiing.
Oh, nice. Again, it's whatever works for you. You know, I can't ski. I don't have those kinds of knees, and I will never be on a surfboard. I would kill myself. And if I tried to juggle, I would hurt my head. So it's what works for you. Okay, it's for your real life. So remember that when we wrap up with this last one, making your journey fun. When that same daughter, before she got married, she came to visit us in Sioux Falls after we had moved from Wyoming to South Dakota. And she came to visit us before she went back to school in the state of Washington. She's going to college up there. And she pulled into our front yard. She had never been to our house in South Dakota. She pulled into the front yard, parked in the driveway, got out of the car, and went over to my flock of plastic pink flamingos and picked them up out of the yard and moved them to the backyard. Because apparently my flamingos embarrassed my daughter, just like my mom's flamingos embarrassed me. So I find a lot of humor in flamingos. So that's my thing. You know, what's your thing that makes you just laugh? And I think life gives us so many moments of laughter. I didn't laugh at the panties story right away. I give you that. It took me a while to see the humor in that, but there is humor. And there's also absolute joy in making the difference that you make every day for all those that you serve. There is so much joy when you make a difference in somebody's life. That's what's so real. And I think if we can remember that humor kind of is like a bridge between people, and so is a smile. Smiles work in every culture, I think. I could be wrong there. I know you have a lot of diversity in your worlds at work, but I think a smile cuts through almost everything. And you could smile at yourself too, and just say, you know what, I'm doing the best I can, and I'm going to have a good day. That decision is one that you can make every single day. So try to smile more and stress less. So those are the actions. And we've got enough time left to go through the last part, which is people. The P of MAP is for people. You're doing this for yourself, right? But you influence others in this process. And you have reasons for doing it. Like I said, my first reason when I wanted to hit age 62 was so I could see my daughters grow up and then see my grandkids someday. And these are my grandkids. And so we have our reasons for doing this. I get to play with my grandkids. It's amazing. It's wonderful. And one day I got to take my granddaughter and her friend up to one of the lakes that I grew up near in the northeastern corner of South Dakota. And I was up on my friend's deck. I'm pretty sure I was enjoying a glass of red wine, watching the kids at the end of the dock, and they were dangling their feet. And from where I was, I could see what they couldn't see. They could see a little bit of ripples, but it was a calm day, absolutely calm water on that lake. And I could see the ripples going out forever and ever and ever. And that's what this is all about in many ways. We'd like to change other people, but we can't, but we can influence them by how we are. And when you make a commitment to self-care, that's kind of what you're doing. You're not just speaking the words, take care of yourself. You are living those actions, and people see that. And when they see that, well, I don't know, but those role models make a difference. And this is when you now become that role model, and you become that positive role model that says, you can do this. You can take a breath. You can relax, take that walk, go out in nature, enjoy the beautiful colors, do the things that are good for you. And you can say that because you've done it, it's going to carry way more weight. It's kind of like this. You make this difference. If you imagine that you're in the middle, and then you have family and friends that see you, and then the students that you serve, and coworkers and community, it just keeps going out in your worlds. And that difference that you make is this very real, very authentic difference in life, all from self-care. I love this one. Remember to take care of yourself, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. And when you work hard every day in this school program, and you are serving and doing and making things work for so many in such a diverse place like Alaska, and so many challenges that you face, you've got to gear up every day to do it. Well, if you're on empty, it's hard to gear up every day. But if you do these things every day, start off with that positive mindset of, yes, I can do this, and it is my responsibility, but I have the opportunity to create this positive energy today from my mindset. And I'm going to do these things that when I get stressed, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to take that deep breath. I'm going to practice some self-compassion. I'm going to do all these little things that add up. Then remember those people that you inspire. The kids that you work with, when you take care of yourself, they're going to know that you did that too. And you're going to inspire them authentically. And isn't that just a really nice way to live? My thing is kayaking. That's why I still have shoulder surgery, so I can keep kayaking. Another beautiful prairie lake where I come from. Never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. And that life is one filled with self-care that makes your journey great every single day. So before we go into Q&A, I just want to tell you that I have this free program for you. And it's 15 weeks. It comes via email. And I'm starting a new one this coming Monday. So you can either go to this website and sign up, and I think all I need is your email address. It might ask you for your name. I can't remember. I haven't been there for a few days, and I've been on the road. So anyway, but if you don't want to sign up for it that way, then email Anna or Lily. Somebody volunteer to get the email addresses for people. All I need is that. And for 15 weeks, you will get these inspirational messages from me on self-care. Sometimes they're videos, sometimes they're just little inspirational things. My granddaughter took these videos, so they're not works of Hollywood, but they're real. They're real messages designed to help you on this path because you're trying to create new habits or strengthen habits and do more of what's right and for you and less of what isn't. So it's just my effort to help you keep going. And then I have a free Facebook group that is private. It's private, but if you'd like to explore finding your pink flamingos, it's how I healed from losing my mom. If that's you and you're in that category, go to that. It's simply Find Your Pink Flamingos. It's a free Facebook group. I have to let you in. I keep it private so it's safe because we talk about the humor of flamingos in our moms' lives and self-care and stuff like that. Okay, so we got time for Q&A. Sorry, I ran a little bit late there.
No, not at all. It looks like we only have, yeah, we have one question so far. So just keep your questions coming in the chat. Or, I think you can come off mute if you want or raise your hand.
Sure.
Whatever works. So yeah. So our first question is, a lot of stress seems to come from external sources, like from other people. So how do we deal with stress coming from other people's behaviors and actions that are directed towards us?
Well, I can tell you what I do, and that is every time it gets to be too much when I'm around people, I go to nature, I go for a walk, I remove myself. When I can't remove myself, I try to center myself into just being grounded. So I make sure that both feet are on the floor so that I am grounded. And then Lily, if you could type this one into the chat for me so everybody can see it. A book that saved my life metaphorically during COVID was called Self-Compassion. And the author of that book was Kristen, Kristin, Neff, Neff. And I learned something in that book that was, I'm 65 years old and I'm learning stuff all the time about self-care. But what I learned is that sometimes things are just hard. And I spent a lot of time in my life trying to say, oh, it'll get better, or it's fine, or it's going to be, well, what I've learned to say instead is to myself quietly, this is hard right now. And I tell myself that I'm really struggling right now. And that when you give yourself that self-compassion and that acknowledgement that something is hard right now with external things, you create oxytocin. It releases in your brain, and that helps you get to a better place. That book is one that I highly, highly recommend. There's so many wonderful tips in there on how to deal with some of the hard stuff. And that is very hard when people are out of control. Boundaries and saying, I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. And then remove yourself. Anybody else have other suggestions? That's what comes to my mind right now.
I'm not seeing any other additional suggestions in the chat. We have some more questions coming in. While I have everyone's attention, though, I just want to remind everyone to take the eval at the end here, just before everyone signs off. Thomas put that in the chat, so remember to do that too. But our next question is, what are some good language to use, to set your limits and boundaries with other people? Like, what are good ways to communicate that?
I think, well, let me just give a plug for the workshop I'm doing tomorrow on helping you find your power. I'm going to go through a lot of language things that you can use. Sometimes one of my favorite phrases is, help me understand why you think that's a good idea. Or help me understand why you think I should do that. So sometimes if you can understand where people are coming from, then maybe you can see it differently, and it's perhaps something you can grapple with better or differently. I also, let me go back to my very first page on that one. Sometimes when people want you to do things and you can't, you could say things, I really wish I could help you with that right now, but I can't. If I could, I would. Maybe I can do it for you later. And maybe it is a time issue. Maybe it's something that you want to be able to do, but you need to schedule it. And, sometimes things can just pop up, but do you ever know people who things always just pop up? Okay, so sometimes those are the ones you have to train, that you have a schedule, you actually kind of plan your life, and you'd love to help them, but unless it's really an emergency, and that usually involves blood on my part, absence of that, it's like, can I do it when it works out better for me? And I don't think that's selfish. Of course, emergencies are always emergencies. I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, I get that. And I've also said, when people have asked me how to do something, I'm going, I don't know, but I bet you can figure that out. It's kind of a sneaky one. Like, they want you to solve a problem. You know, I don't know, but I'll bet you can figure that out. I know there's sometimes kind of,
yeah.
And I had the magnet when I was a mom of 2 teenage daughters, and now I still have it on my refrigerator at home. What part of the word no don't you understand? That can be kind of harsh, but sometimes you have to just, I can't do it. I wish I could, but I can't do it. Any other questions, or do you want more on that one?
Well, Thomas does have his hand raised, so I'm going to pass it over to him.
Oh, there you go. Yes, Thomas.
Yeah.
Thank you. There was some chat around this. Would love to hear your thoughts and comments around this. So just someone was talking about raising the awareness about the impacts of racism, poverty, historical trauma on one's ability to do self-care. But with that ability to have the free time, access to healthy food or green spaces, oftentimes be associated with wealth and privilege. Would love to hear your kind of thoughts about this, in recognizing that self-care, there is equity and inequities associated with the ability to self-care. Would love to hear any thoughts you have.
Absolutely. I have been working in the AmeriCorps Vista program, which is Volunteers in Service to America in poverty areas, since 1998. And except for COVID, we didn't have any live events for the last 2 years, but and I myself was raised in poverty. I didn't realize it at the time because we were on a farm. There's a lot of inequality out there, and that's really hard. Everything that I tried to have everything I suggested today be something that doesn't cost anything. That can be about, you know, dealing with stressful situations right here, right now. I do really think, though, that one of the hardest things in life for me is to be willing to ask for help. And so if there are resources that you need that you don't have that can help you with self-care, then try to be able to be in some discussions about getting those. I don't know what that means in anybody's specific world, but there's a lot of things out there, and they're not always there. They're not always there. When I was 15 years old, our house was destroyed by fire, and I watched my family lose everything and get emerged into this place where we had nothing. And it's hard. And sometimes I think, you know, acknowledging that's hard, and then looking for whatever resources are there in your local communities. Thomas, help me out with that. I don't know Alaska the way you do. What else can people do there?
I think oftentimes it's looking to our culture and our connection to others and our relationships with family, and leaning into those, or our collective families or chosen families. I think there's also oftentimes a lot of ability when looking at this idea of thinking of self-care and how that reflects is about it's giving an opportunity for ourselves for forgiveness, and that ability to just acknowledge, like you said, that things are tough right now. Helping ourselves be able to see and acknowledge that, and doing the micro practices that we do on ourselves as well, to be like, you know,
and whatever is the strength of your culture, the strength of your belief, tap into that. You know, whatever that is in your space, in your community, in your family, tap into those things that are that root you deeply in those things. You know, after my mom died, I healed of that sudden death by finding the best gifts of her life, which were the values that she taught me. And I think in every culture, in every community, we have some values like family, like care for each other, like doing things that are really good for you, like being there for each other. That's why this group of people will never, you couldn't be selfish. You give so much. So all I'm saying is put yourself on that same list and, you know, give to yourself as well. But there's so many examples of, I think, where people share food and share resources. And after we lost our house, we had a place to live that night because somebody opened up another farmhouse for us. People are good. Life can be really hard. But I really believe that when we believe that we are worth it and that we can do these things, that micro things, like Thomas said, that word is great, micro, small things. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Please don't ever be afraid to ask for help from your community, from your culture, from those you love, because people are good for the most part. Sometimes we're rascals, but we're pretty good, and we'll help each other.
Yeah, I just wanted to say we have some really nice comments coming in the chat. Shauna Breeze mentioned, you know, public libraries are something that's a cool thing to be able to take advantage of. Standing up for folks, Jennifer says, standing up for folks that don't have the ability to find ways to get their basic needs met, and, you know, seconding what you were just both talking about. Denise Ray says, in our Native communities, hunting, gathering, eating native food, Eskimo dancing, drumming, singing, and crafting. Mm-hmm. So those cultural connections.
Yes.
So those are some good comments.
When my daughter moved to Corvallis last July, I went walking up the hill here with my granddaughter, and we ran into something I had never seen before. Blackberries. They grow wild here. My granddaughter has celiac disease and has to eat a lot of fruit and veggies. So we discovered, every area has something different. You know, so what is in your area might not be what I have on the prairie of South Dakota, might not be what you have in Alaska, but every area has stuff that you can use and count on and enjoy. Just don't take it for granted. It's there. I'm believing that's there. So much good stuff there.
Yeah.
So
thank you so much.
Yeah. So again, if you want the 15-week follow-up, just either go to that website or let somebody know that you want it, because it's free, and there's a lot of good tips in there, and it goes on for 15 weeks. So it take you through the busy holiday season too. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to have this time with you today. Thank you.